Hello scholars. Today we will be learning about how to write equations to describe proportional relationships. As you take a moment to think about this learning target, please make sure that you've also recorded it in your notebooks under the appropriate session and you have a new page ready for notes. At any point in time, if you feel the video is going too fast, you may go ahead and pause the video to record what you feel is necessary or what I specify that needs to be recorded. So let's get to it. Before we can get started, we want to think about some number talks for division. So the first thing that you want to think about is what is 645 divided by 100? You'll go ahead and record this answer in your Do Now section of your notebook. The next problem we have is 645 divided by 50. So although the problem is very similar to the last, it is not the exact same. So you want to try to complete this mentally by thinking of a pattern that you could use from going from 100 to 50. The next problem we now have is 48 and 6/10 divided by 30. Same thing, you want to try to use a little bit of mental math. I know that might be a little challenging with the decimals, but still think about what could be an easy pattern that we witness between 645 divided by 100, 645 divided by 50, and now we're at 48 and 6/10 divided by 30. If you have that pattern, it should be really easy for you to go ahead and write a relationship for 48 and 6/10 divided by x, or divided by anything. So if I gave you 48 and 6/10 divided by 10, or divided by 20, there should be a form of a pattern that you have going on, and that's going to help us determine what could be the solution if we were dividing by an unknown variable. Once you have that, go ahead and write down your thoughts within your own words and be prepared to post to Schoology for a discussion about what process you did to arrive at the pattern. This is going to be really important for going forward thinking about creating equations for proportional relationships. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to revisit this idea that 2 cups of dry rice will serve 6 people. Go ahead and record this table in your notebook. If you'd like to, maybe look back at a few days ago when we were talking about this problem at first. So how many people will 1 cup of rice serve? How many people will 3 cups, 12 cups, 43 cups serve? So when you've kind of got that idea, then you want to think about x cups. So remember, we looked at a pattern. When you start feeling this out, if we look at a pattern between 1 and 6, and then we try to look at and see what it would be for 1 particular cup of rice, this is going to be really important for us. Oh. Sorry guys, I was trying to write on this, but it's not going to allow me to write on that. So what you want to think about is that when we go from the first column to the second, you multiply by 3. So I want you to go ahead and write that down. When we go from the first column to the second, we multiply by 3. And therefore 3 is our constant of proportionality. This is a real important vocabulary word that we were talking about throughout the week before the dinosaur trip. So therefore we can use the equation 2 times what to find the constant of proportionality, and in that case it would be 3. So hopefully a few of us were able to find that, and if you were, then we realized that if we're multiplying from our first column to our second, we'd be multiplying by 3. So still not being able to write on here. But we would go ahead and put x, not working. So the actual equation would be x times 3. Therefore, if I gave you 500 cups of dry rice, you would be using that constant of proportionality to solve, and you would actually use 500 times 3. Sorry, I know this is hard without me being able to write, but just know x times 3 is going to be the actual solution for this problem. So now when we look at the same thing, we have a recipe says 6 spring rolls will serve 3 people. I want to go ahead and complete the table and answer the following questions. How many people will 1 spring roll serve? How many people will 10 serve? 16, 25, etc. And then hopefully you've come to a pattern that helps you determine how many people will n spring rolls serve. So if we were thinking about a variable representing an unknown number, that would be n, just represents anything we don't know. And then answer 3 in question number 3 in your notebook. How is completing this table different from the previous table, and how is it the same? So for this one, I'm not going to talk you through, but I would just remind you that we're trying to look for a pattern from going from one column to the next. And once we find that little pattern, it will really help us determine what is the equation here. Take some time, record your thoughts in your notebook, as well as discuss only with your table groups. Guys, we don't need to have extensive whole class conversation. We're just going to talk with our table groups. So I would say right now is a good place to pause if you have not finished this problem. I'm going to go ahead and move forward for the sake of recording. So the next thing that we have is that a plane is flying at a constant speed between Denver and Chicago. It takes the plane 1.5 hours to fly 915 miles. So here's a little bit of a crummy map, just because it's hard to see on this screen. But hopefully you guys can get the idea. So we have Denver right here, and then Chicago. So when the plane is flying a total of 1.5 hours, they cover 915 distances. So we want to think about that miles per hour video that we watched that was a little silly. Determine how many miles is the plane actually covering in 1 hour, and then continue to fill out your chart in regards to the distance that could be traveled for each given time or hour. The next one that we're going to look at is the same idea that we had with our rice. Now we're looking at the bread dough. So a bakery uses 8 tablespoons of honey for 10 cups of flour to make the bread dough. Some days they bake bigger batches and some days they make smaller. So we're talking about completing the table, and we're actually going to talk about the idea that F is the cups of flour. So right here we have F for cups of flour, and then H is the honey. So we want to write an equation in regards to F and H. So same thing, determine a relationship. How can we go from 8 to 10? And then we would write that as H times our constant of proportionality equals our flour. Sorry guys. So hopefully when you got a few ideas for your rice, you were able to see that 1 cup of rice was equal to 3 people. And then talking about the actual distance for the airplane, the 1 hour will travel 610 miles, and the speed per mile then per hour is then 610. It would be the same because this represents our constant of proportionality. So when you're looking through this particular video, I know it would be easy just to write these down as your answers, but when I return, the main thing is going to be to find out what was your thought process in solving these. So you are going to have some work visible to get full credit for this. So just take a moment, check in with yourself, see if it was possible for you to write the constant of proportionality when we were talking about the table, and can you write the equation in the form of y equals kx to represent proportional relationships. So remember, we're trying to represent proportional relationships with an equation. Let's see how you feel about that by taking the exit slip on Schoology, so I hope that this video helped you, or at least you were able to grapple with some of the problems on your own.